Hello, welcome back to Bloodborne Part 19. Here at Bergenworth, we're going to continue on with the game. Most important thing about this area is that there's the fly guys that love to give us the frenzy. So have your sedatives ready. Honestly, it's not worth using a sedative for this part though, because they are not easily gotten back from this stage of the game. Since we no longer have the NPC that gives us them for free. So we're going to go ahead and kind of check the battlefield there. We see that there's already one dude right there. Should be another one kind of patrolling. And mostly what I would suggest is kind of doing this part by yourself at first. We are going to use the NPC summons just to take on some of the more harder things inside the mansion, but we are not going to use them for the big boss battle. And the reason why I say not to take the NPC right now is because there's going to be one of those brain sucker dudes that are just kind of chilling around the corner, and we don't want to aggro it. If they do happen chance land on your head, just take the damage and let the frenzy wear off. You don't want to go around wasting all your stuff. And then coming up around this tree, you're going to see the brain sucker, which you can pull off an easy visceral if you get the right angle. And then over here for Arcane Lake. Another rune, and this one reduces arcane damage. So the reason why they're giving us that rune is because it's very important to use in the fight against the major boss of this area and against the NPC that waits atop the mansion, seeing that NPC has arcane capabilities. So the three fly guys aren't hard to deal with all by themselves. The brain sucker, though, could be a different story if you aggro it with the NPC help. And I think it's just generally annoying when you don't get the drop on them. So familiar summon, the younger Madara's twin. He went ahead and helped us with the Shadows of Yharnam, and now we're going to take him around the mansion so he can help us out with these annoying creatures. Now, this enemy, we have seen it before. It's one of those cosmic horrors, giant centipede dudes. If you didn't do the Chalice Dungeons, then this will be your first time ever seeing them. So strategy is still the same. We just want to circle around, get to the back. Try not to stand in front of it. Yeah, That'll be the first instance of a great one's wisdom. All this does is that it gives us even more insight. So when you pop one of those, you'll end up popping 3. Come around the side here for some more of the fly beat. You want to pump the shortcut because things can go very wrong inside the mansion. So an NPC is going to come crawling down the little spiral staircase here. Most dangerous attack is like this arcane nuclear bomb that it decides to pull out every now and again. Biggest strategy against this guy is just to stay aggressive as possible. Parry as you can do with any humanoid NPC. And stay on top of him and be aggressive. Try to corner him if you can. Generally a shit reward for an NPC like that, but they're never really worth fighting anyway. But just use that same exact strat. You might have different kind of tools in order to deal with them as well. If we were running an arcane build, I would have definitely shown you to get something else that deals with NPCs pretty easily. Don't forget the chest at the bottom and the chest right here. Very hard to see for the student uniform. Complete set won't be gotten for a while. But the student uniform usually produces good defense against arcane. When the red moon hangs low, the line between man and beast is blurred. And when the great ones descend, a womb will be blessed with a child. So that is supposed to offer a note into why the female NPCs in this game become pregnant. So very weird stuff's about to start happening. Your NPC summons are going to get stupid and not follow you up the ladder, so you're on your own at this point. Make sure to grab this key. That key will allow us to go through the big door and take on the big boss of the area. Now, depending on your state of play, if you're in online mode right now, you are actually going to have a Bell Witch that will be sitting up here. A fly dude. They're just annoying as ever. So you got yourself a new hunter tool, the empty phantasm shell. Again, it's another arcane heavy type of material that you use for your weapon. All this thing does is that it slathers your weapon with arcane. So it's free, you know, I mean, you have to use 3 Quicksilver bullets for it, but it's free charges every single time, as long as you meet the Quicksilver bullet count. And your weapon will turn arcane for quite a few seconds, like about 30, 40 seconds. The only issue with that is that not a lot of things outside of humanoid enemies are weak to arcane. It's extremely useless against beast. And obviously the kin are arcane users, so not the greatest thing, only really used for humanoid enemies, which we stopped seeing a lot of them as bosses pretty much going forward from here. Then using the Lunarium key, we're going to go ahead and pop the big door open and come across the NPC that we needed a rune from. Talk to him to gain 2 insight. And we will have remembered this guy from the cutscenes earlier, talking about the old blood and all that kind of stuff after we killed Biker Amelia. He's actually really useless from this point, so you actually do really want to kill him. And then we are going to pick up one of the best runes for the game, the Eye at its full level. This is the level 3 version of Eye, meaning that we are going to get a plus 70 effect when it comes to what its Carol rune effect is, which is gaining more enemies, or gaining more items from enemies. So that's going to increase our discovery rate, and we held off on doing the majority of the other Chalice dungeons so that while we go through the dungeons, we put that on, and then we have a higher chance of getting some pretty cool Bloodstone gems and items from the enemies that we fight within them, instead of having to go back and forth doing it over and over again. At this point, I would recommend to exit the game and then go back into it, because the 2 NPC summons are not going to help us in this next fight. I think it's a lot better to not use them because, one, we don't have any way to kind of heal them or deal with the mass amounts of shit that's about to happen to it. They upgrade the boss's health bar a little too much for what it is, and the tinier little enemies will absolutely just decimate these 2, so it's just a waste of your time. Then we get another summon right here that you could use. So you could potentially use Damien, Old Hunter Henrik, or the younger Madara's twin. So Damien I've never really seen before. His character doesn't come to memory for me. But just, you have options here. And the reason why we can see like Henrik and stuff like that is because we are wearing the Impurity rune still. Now, one final tip before you fall down is that you want to make sure that you absolutely have everything that you want up to this point in the game, as in NPCs that we already went through at the church. You wanted to finish off the old lady's quest line. You wanted to advance Eileen's quest line. You wanted to make the choice between either taking Adela or the other lady's blood that we have currently, Ariana, and have gotten any other weapons and stuff like that that you might want right at this point in the game and upgrade and kind of farm for bloodstone shards and all that stuff. Do any kind of chalice dungeoning that you might want to do beforehand, because after we take on this boss, the world state is going to change, and the game is going to proceed to get a lot harder, and items are going to get a lot more expensive. So spend time at the Hypogean Jail and Yarha Ghul, and you should be good to go. Now, I know for the majority of the game, we've been talking about not carrying too many runes into fights with us. But for this boss instance, I'm going to say that this is the only exception, because what happens is if we go back to the Hunter's Dream, we're going to open up, everything's going to come right back to life, and we have to go through all the stuff again minus the Hunter. So I think that's just annoying to deal with. It's not that hard of a run back, but it is still annoying that we still have to fight those fly dudes and potentially get jumped on and get frenzied and all sorts of crap happening. And that's not to say that you might make it the first try against this boss, but, you know, you do what you can. So setup is you want your best arcane and physical defense flows on at this point. Now I'm gonna stick with my graveyard stuff, because this fight's not that hard, like once you actually know what you're doing. But if you do really need to change out, I mean, the Black Church stuff is pretty good at arcane resistance for this part of the game. It's probably the highest that we have. Potentially Henrik's. The student stuff is definitely really good at arcane resistance, but for now you only have the shoes and the uniform. So if you want to put those two things on, the only thing that sucks is that you lose out on a little bit of physical defense on them, so you kind of have to make that choice. But you know what, we'll just put on everything that's arcane heavy. So you probably look like a fool like I do. If you're going for straight defensive stats, that's okay. Now, you want to ensure that you have a weapon that is capable of applying some kind of fire or bolt paper. Fire will do just a bit of extra damage, but bolt paper is like the actual weakness to this thing. And any kind of weapons that have thrusting capabilities, that's what you want to take into this fight, because it is a kin, meaning that it is weak to thrust and bolt. So we're getting the best of both worlds here with a stab and some electricity. If you are using the rifle spear, the rifle spear does not have the capability of being slathered with bolt paper or fire paper. So you'll have to make do with just thrusting attacks. There's really no opportunity for shooting at anything in this fight, so your guns are completely useless. If you're a strength build, you might want to consider using the cannon just to deal with the smaller guys, but it's not really necessary either way. And that's the basic setup for this boss. So the game doesn't really tell you, but what you're going to do is that you're going to take a stare at the moon, and then you're just going to straight dive right into that little white area inside the water. After you made your piece and you got everything that you wanted to, go ahead and enter. And we are going to enter the battle with Rom the Vacuous Spider. Now, the easiest thing I can say about Rom is get these creatures out of the way quickly. And make sure that you don't leave like 1 or 3 behind, thinking that you're safe to attack Rom whenever you want, because these guys have a nasty habit at just coming up from behind you and just poking you to death. The front of their heads are very resistant to physical, so you'll have to do what I'm doing and kind of run behind them. Locking on is not recommended during the fight, because if you don't keep everything in front of you, these guys will sneak attack, and they do too much damage for what kind of enemy they are. One of the most dangerous attacks that they do are, it's like a jump and then they do a head slam. That's pretty much an insta-kill if it connects with you. And these guys have a chance at dropping knowledge. And then you can see how bolt damage and thrusting damage have absolutely wiped Rom to the floor. So because I did too much damage that was probably uncalled for at this moment, she actually spawned all her phases are now inside. The best way to avoid that meteor attack is just to continue to run, sprint. When she stands up like that, that means that meteors are coming down, so just sprint. You want to be sure to keep her in front of you at all times, so you can see what kind of attack she's producing. And then circle around, take your opportunity to stab whatever spider gives himself up. Continue to run away from the meteors, keeping Rom in front. This attack that she does while she's on her back will summon little crystals from the bottom, just like so. The only way to get out of that is just to run far away so you're out of the AoE explosion zone. And I would just run as far as you can because it's hard to tell when they're going to come up. Biggest thing about this fight is to keep your stamina really high at all times. That dive attack would have been an insta-kill. Those wild swings that these little spiders do is actually really dangerous as well if you're caught inside of them. And with this boss, it's all about just management. Manage your stamina, your health. Don't get greedy. If you take damage, heal through it right away. Because any of these attacks can be one-hit kills. And then when it becomes a one-on-one with Rom, you just want to watch out for the crystals. Try to get yourself out of there once you're doing it again. Then after the fight, you will have picked up one of the best of the cold bloods. It'll give you a ton of echoes. That's generally how you deal with Rom. Really not a hard fight, it's all about staying patient. Biggest mistakes you make in that fight are not keeping everything in front of you, letting the tiny spiders kind of overwhelm you or getting caught in between them, and taking wild shots at Rom while she's also being protected by the baby spiders. So if you manage to take out all the little spiders, it's just going to be a one-on-one. She has 3 phases. We damaged through phase 1, so she ended up spawning both phase 2 and phase 3 at the same time. Really not a difficult situation, as long as you remain patient with it. Once the battle is over, you want to run over to the ghostly figure over here of a woman, and Bloodborne will now change its world state for good. The ritual secret has been broken. Seek the nightmare newborn. And through our expansive world building and knowledge that we have gained since our time of playing Bloodborne, we are now in the most critical point where we are starting to see all of the stuff that actually produced the horrors that we see in Yharnam now. Before, we couldn't see these guys. They were always here. You're going to come across at least 3 or 4 of them. 3 of them will be interactions where their hand just comes down and tries to kill you, transporting you to different areas. While there's one hidden one that we have to deal with, an actual boss fight. And then we never went down this area because we are still waiting to do the Canehurst side quest, but this is just the backside of the right path from Vicar Amelia's little place. We'll pick that up when we actually do a more detailed approach towards it. Now, a couple of things about this place is we could have came here a lot earlier, and this place would have been a roadblock. So before, when we were still doing the Hemwick Charnel Lane and taking on Vicar Amelia, there was the left path for the witches, the middle path for Vicar Amelia, and then there was this right path. And if we remember, back in the Forbidden Woods, there was an NPC that gave us a tonsil stone. Reading in the tonsil stone, it says, "Step lightly round to the right to the great cathedral and seek an ancient shrouded church. The gift of the Godhead will grant you strength." Okay? And what that means is that if we have come down here with the tonsil stone earlier, we would never have seen this thing that's kind of sitting up there like that. And a mysterious little blue orb would have came down, just like when we picked up the Black Church set when we entered the Cathedral Ward. So, if you had the tonsil stone in your inventory, it would have transported us into another area of the game that we could have went to much earlier, but I kind of figured to hold off on it because it's really not necessary to what we were trying to build for anyway. And that's why we went to Canehurst first, which is actually a much harder area than this area that we can go to. It also not only does that happen, but it also opens up an entirely new area as well, an optional area called the Nightmare Frontier. Probably one of the hardest places in the entire game, but we need to make sure that we're actually ready for places like that and getting you guys set up with, you know, +9 or even +10 weapons, because, you know, seeing that they are optional, meaning that they really don't need to be played at any point in the game, but we're going to set everyone up to where it's actually more feasible and you're not struggling with low-level weapons or lower-level, you know, stats for your hunter. So then once this is all complete, go ahead and change back into whatever kind of stuff you like. For me, I'm going to go with Henrik's. Really, all you're going to do is start fighting beefed up versions of Yarnamites, and they're going to be kind of invincible. You'll see them in a little bit. They're kind of like drenched in blood. They'll just be summoned over and over again. The summon capability is kind of forgiving though, so once you get rid of the first wave, it'll be a while before like the second or third wave comes in. It's more of a challenge of, you know, can you find the Bell Maidens who are summoning them like they were down in the Chalice dungeon, eliminate them, and then you have no more, you know, getting chased around this entire map. So we'll go ahead, just run right through this guy. Don't stop and stare at him. He will come down and try to pick you up. Another note, so you'll see right here, the guys who are being spawned in. That giant blood explosion they do just means that they're not really dead. So they do give you some good echoes, but they're just not worth the pain of, you know, getting resummoned and having to deal with them over and over again. But another note was that there was a lamp that was down in Rom's little arena. Chose not to go for it because the lamp really is useless. You don't need it for an achievement, and you don't need to go back to the Hunter's Dream for any reason at that point in the game, because we came up on a lamp right here. So unless you really wanted to take the lamp and go to Rom's arena just to look at the scenery, then you can fall back down, go down there, and, you know, find it, but it's useless. There will be no more spiders or anything like that to farm. And the little maiden that we ran into, she won't be there either, so no point. So then now you see another one of those dudes with an asshole that likes to shoot at us. Now these ones are a lot more dangerous. They like to shoot laser beams out of their fucking eyes, so be prepared for that. And the laser beams actually do like hit you pretty hard and potentially can one-hit kill you depending on how many of the enemies don't get hit by it and make it through and just take wild swipes at you. Generally from this area, you just want to kind of run down and over to the right, kind of weave, because that gun dude has a beat on us. Grab the actual first chunk or the second chunk of the game before we went to Canehurst. Come down this path. This is a shortcut area, so we want to clear it out and grab the items so we don't forget about it. That was probably the most dangerous dude, the chairman. Kind of be quick and just pick up the rest of the stuff around here. This is the shortcut elevator, so do not jump down the hole, you will die. Won't be able to operate it for a hot minute. Nothing else really to grab down here. And once we pick up those items, now you're good to go ahead and go back to the Hunter's Dream, because there are a few things that we need to patch up before we continue on in our adventures. And some of these things are optional and very difficult to deal with as we are right now. But just want to make sure that we point them all out so we get every little nook and cranny checked out here in Bloodborne. So back at the Hunter's Dream, want to go ahead and do our loop yet again. Storage for anything you might need. Down over here, upgrade any weapons you might need to upgrade. We didn't really pick up anything in blood gems, so you don't need to worry about that. Just repair what you have to. And that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I will never get anything close to 50,000 clean like that again. Usually they're always weird-ass numbers. From here, you can probably get rid of the HP plus % one and put back on the more echoes from slain enemies. Seeing that every enemy is about to give us increased runes, you definitely want to make use of that. And probably start taking a look at the physical damage reduction in late, because honestly, things are going to hit hard regardless. So you probably want stuff like more items, you know, probably the visceral version of Moon. So you get more blood echoes from visceral attacks with air. Get more visceral attack or HP from doing visceral attacks. Bullets and stuff like that. The better runes will start finding themselves here in a bit, but we don't have, you know, the right setup just yet for all that. And walk around, trying to find Gurman if he's still around. Make sure we check out the insight pool. So new stuff we got will be the lead elixir. Not the greatest item in the world. You can start buying twin bloodstone shards now. No new attire. Coming down to the bath messengers, you will now see that everything has been increased in price. And I think that that was the last increase that we'll see. So blood vials will always stay at 720 and so on. So they went from their 180 all the way up to 720 due to everything we've done up to this point. Which is why I said farm what you need to farm and get what you need to get, because they're not going to stay cheap forever. Like even bolt paper and fire paper, almost 10,000 a piece. Still can't buy twin bloodstone shards just yet. You will get that opportunity, we just need to wait. And then take a look at any new weapons you might want. Still all the same stuff. Then upgrade with the doll.
What? Very well then. Farewell, good hunter. Welcome. What? Good hunter. Your presence somehow soothes. I sense the ancient echoes. They course your veins.
And of course, NPCs now are going to have new dialogue because of the world state change. So that was one of her lines.
Good hunter. Farewell, good. May you find.
So we'll go ahead and transport over to Central Yarnum, end the video on a sad note, and then pick up from there. I'm doing some optional questing. So with the blood moon in effect, the world state has forever changed. We do want to revisit a lot of these old places. Most notably, We got time. Let's just go to the first floor sick room. Show a couple of these optional things. Okay, so her back door is going to be shut. You want to take the back path back into the Yusuf's clinic back entrance here. Make sure you watch out for this dude. He's still around. Change over to your thrusting weapon. Make sure to use the tree. We could just avoid the crows. They're not really going to pose any kind of a threat. Then remember to go to the left side this time again. If you sent any other people to the clinic and you didn't deal with them as aliens, they'll be running around here. So just kill them as you go. You can see that this dude's never changed locations. Make sure you picked up the chest in here from earlier, in case you didn't. If you chose to keep the fake Yusufka alive, she is now going to be giving birth on the top floor where we could have met her for a fourth umbilical cord. So you get a chance to gain 4, but this is gonna be number 3 for us, and then the 4th one is going to be gathered somewhere else. Oh, second one. Okay, second one. I forget we get the other one later. So if you chose to fight Yusufka here, the fake one, you would have gotten a rune instead. And there would have been no point coming back here to begin with. But seeing that we heeded the warning and we left this NPC alive. So that's going to cancel out the rune for good, but you do gain a different type of reward for doing this.
God, I'm nauseous. Have you felt this? It's progressing. I can see things. I knew it. I'm different. I'm no beast. Oh, God, it feels awful. But it proves that I'm chosen. Don't you see how they writhe inside my head? It's rather rapturous. God, I'm nauseous.
So weird shit's happening, but we read the note back in Bergenworth that, you know, the females are starting to become pregnant after the blood moon has risen, trying to give birth to the new great ones. So you're gonna have to do some very heinous acts from here on out, probably against your morals, but you're gonna have to kill her. And this is one way to gather another 1/3 umbilical cord. So this umbilical cord is usually the safety method of not getting Ariana killed or just straight up not recruiting her. But that's rather pretty much it for this spot. I'm not sure if there was any notes. This would have been the arena. You would have backed her into this corner and tried to fight her off, but she's a rather tough fight. She has like a whip and a gun, so... definitely better suited for a New Game Plus run. But with her out of the way, we want to go ahead and return. And then we want to climb the ladder back up to our very first lamp that we met. Now, for whatever reason, the Blood Moon doesn't seem to really reach into Central Yharnam. So the enemies here are going to be still as weak as they were from the beginning. As you can tell, it's just one poke does them in now. Then after we do this part, we'll go ahead and call this in on the video. Basically what happened is that Gilbert has become a beast. Like the regular little beast dudes that we've seen before. And you just want to come up here, just kind of take them on. Really weak. And you'll get a rune, which is the claw mark. The claw mark will increase your visceral attack by 20%. So a very, very good rune. Honestly, one that I'm going to have to switch out for my particular build because I am skill heavy along with blood change, meaning that I'm going for the parries that you've seen so far. So that damage of where I was doing like 1500 a pop just from viscerals alone is going to go up by 20% now. So extremely useful if you can pull it off in boss fights. It usually just drains half of their HP or even more. It could potentially be like a finishing kill in a lot of builds. And then there are some new things to do in Yharnam, nothing that's particularly fancy or, you know, worth doing on a normal run. But stuff that's kind of hidden and out of the way. So you could miss out on some potentially hidden NPC, you know, dialogue or whatever. But like I said, it's nothing that's really required unless you want like every item in the game. But we will tackle that in the next part. So thanks for watching, and we'll continue from Central Yharnam.